Judas Priest fans tend to overlook this album, maybe even forget it. And there's a good reason for that. Let me add some context. Rob Halford, the metal god himself, the metal god, had left Judas Priest, and they had taken up with Tim Ripper Owens, who they recorded 2 albums with, both of which I've podcasted about recently, Jugulator and Demolition. Not massively popular, to be honest, with fans or with critics. And Rob Halford had gone on to form his band Fight. They released 2 albums, not massively popular with fans or critics, and that should in a way be the end of it. But it isn't. Because at the time, let me put this into some more context. I remember going to work on a bus, conveyance by public transport, ladies and gentlemen, and I remember seeing someone who was going to school, quite young, with a vinyl album, and it was a Marilyn Manson album. That is how popular Marilyn Manson was. We tend to forget, don't we? He was incredibly successful. So I remember seeing the album, and it happened to be Mechanical Animals, 1998 this would be, tucked under the arm proudly. And it had a real effect, that kind of Industro metal and all that kind of stuff. And it certainly had an effect on Rob Halford. Because he started to wear the kind of, if I remember, fur coats. He started to wear eyeliner, if I remember rightly. And it was big at the time. I think, if I remember rightly, also, metal fans were thinking, what is this? And he hooked up with John Five, who's now with Motley Crue, and he hooked up with Trent Reznor, who was an executive producer on it, I think, and released an album called Voyeurs, which has on the cover a New York City tube train rushing towards a Rob Halford looking whimsically and winsomely into the distance. Remember that? Most people are looking to forget it. Didn't do well. And as I say, it's been overlooked. But is that unnecessary overlooking? I overlooked it at the time. Well, I listened to it quite a lot because I was into that Industro metal. I was into quite a lot of that. And I remember thinking, I reckon this is a bit of bandwagon jumping. Don't think it was. I think that Rob Halford sincerely loved this kind of music. Hung out with those people, had a good time with them, and actually, this is a lot better than I remember. But it ain't great. You see, there's quite a lot of glam in here. First track you get, I Am a Pig. There's quite a lot of this. Things like, Deep in the Ground and Gimp sort of thing, that sort of, yeah. It's a holdover from grunge, isn't it, in a way? And that tight riffing with a bit of glam and the heaving guitar really works in I Am a Pig. I actually thought when Stuttering Kiss followed it, good name actually, that good title, I thought this might be a bit of an overlooked gem, this. But then the nondescript chorus comes in after a percussive beat and rather scudding guitar. It's got a good groove, but I wish the chorus were a little bit more of something. I feel the same way about Leave Me Alone, which has got that guitar grooving in the middle, and John Five does really well with that. But then the rest of it, not half as good. He also messed around with a bit of his vocals here. It's not this is the painkiller. It's not that. This is real dramatic, gritty vocal. quite low, quite taut, particularly on If. It's got the electronic beats. Remember those electro beats, the pulsating beats, folks? It slithers around. But then, you've got a bit of Stone Temple Pilots. In fact, Scott Weiland on Deep in the Ground, which has a kind of 60s Partridge feel, Partridge Family feel to it, with a bit of grunge as well. It's a bit odd. I like that. I like the tight guitaring. I like the bass-led breakdown in it. Wake Up sounds like Stone Temple Pilots. Don't mind that, but Stone Temple Pilots, well, you know, it's not as if you're thinking, well, I can't access their music or anything. And Gimp is really Manson. It really is quite pop, glammy. Remember, this was quite pop at the time. And you also need to remember, I'm not making excuses, but this was the sound du jour. He was on the cutting edge, and yet always felt, even from someone like me who actually understood that music and listened a lot to it, I feel, even someone like me thought, is he really just following the crowd though? Is he ahead of the curve or just slightly riding that and saying, can I get on there? Bit of a feel of that. Sounds good, doesn't sound good enough and sounds like an awful lot of what was around, but doesn't sound like as good as Mechanical Animals. It was released same year, 98, wasn't it? Doesn't sound as good as that. We all breathed a sigh of relief, I think, us metalheads, when Halford arrived at the album in 2000 with him on the bike. Not a rally chopper, not a grifter, a motorbike. And, in the leathers and all that, not a fur coat and with no mascara. That sort of thing. Not that anyone was saying he shouldn't be wearing mascara, how dare he. People were, if I remember rightly, really open to the new sound. It's just that this album didn't slay. And because of all the expectation it needed to, and because you've got Marilyn Manson and Trent Reznor saying we're releasing stuff, and people love it, it needs to be better than that. It's onto a loser straight away. But, taken outside of that context, it's still not that brilliant. Sorry, Rob. Ta-ta.